Hey everybody, I need to stop playing AC Rally because well, you might think not, but I do actually have a job and I'm sort of distracted by thinking about this game and driving it a bit, which is a pretty big compliment because I really enjoyed sliding my 037 around the gravel thing in Wales. Super cool, really enjoyable, not without its flaws. We have to have sort of praise and also criticism. So no more AC Rally videos for a while, so I just wanted to condense some of my force feedback feelings and a few other things that I found in this video. Disclaimer, I do not have the source code, I'm not one of the developers, so I'm sort of going by feel and what I think, and it's probably not all correct what I'm saying. As well as, of course, it's an early access game. I do not know what the developers have already sort of planned and what will be fixed in the next release, or maybe they haven't prioritized. I have no idea. So these are just some critical findings, but don't forget I had so much fun for the first time in 21 years driving a rally car through the gravel sideways. So lots of things to praise, but also things to be critical about. Lots of things you could say about the graphics and the sound and the UI. I won't go there. I'm just going to focus on the physics and the force feedback in this video. But final time, like the game, really enjoyed it, but there are some issues and I'm going to be critical about this in this video. First we'll look at the car setup, some things that I found and I find a little strange, but I'm not sure about. And then there will be a very confusing part about the force feedback that's not great. On all the cars I've checked, there are springs to adjust, but no helper springs or secondary springs. These are in Richard Burns Rally and in AMS1 we have them as well. That I find a bit weird because in rallying a lot of the time I would expect, and I've seen pictures of this 037 Lancia, that they have dual stage front and rear springs or helper springs. Imagine that is a stacked spring, maybe a tiny little spring on top of a beefy spring, and that helps the suspension extend and lower on jumps, for example. And I've seen, I will put a picture in here now, it appears that at least on some occasions, the real car had lots more rebound travel, so the wheels drop down when you jump, than the car in this game. And maybe it's because we do not have helper springs or secondary springs. Because the idea is that with a stacked spring, and they can come in various flavors, and you can tweak that in Richard Burns Rally, you can control the softness or stiffness of the suspension as a function of how far the travel has moved on the suspension. That's a bit nerdy and complicated, but there are no options for it, and you would expect rally teams to tweak that, I think. And there is some evidence that at least they use dual stage springs on this car. No car that I loaded, and I loaded quite a few, has any helper spring, secondary spring option. And of course the ride and the rebound travel is very important. And I've not checked the modern cars, but if you see real rally cars nowadays jump, the front wheels and rear wheels, they go down so far relative to the car. And of course, if there is like 20 centimeters of rebound travel, that gives you a lot of absorption when you land from the jumps. The springs and the dampers can really absorb that landing. And if the rebound travel is a bit reduced, which it appears to be on this car that I've jumped a little bit, but this is really sort of early information and it's just my feelings that are not necessarily factual. It appears there isn't enough rebound travel, and that also will make like bumpy roads and jumps maybe more nervous because the landings are more impactful than they should be. So that was surprising. Another thing there, bump rubbers, very important as well when we are landing jumps. We might, even if we have a dual straight stage spring, we might still reach the end and we have a bump rubber. I'm assuming there is a bump rubber modeled, but I don't know. But if there is, you might want to go with a softer or stiffer rubber, depending on if it's a jumpy rally or a tarmac stage. And that's not adjustable here. So rebound travel, secondary or helper springs, bump rubbers are not a thing here, yet I feel they are quite important for rally car setup. Maybe they are there and just hard-coded. Again, I cannot tell, but it is a bit surprising because, hey, the detail is here. So if it wasn't there, you would almost expect them to give you control over it. This is going to be a bit technical, but a certain spring, at some point, if you have a very stiff spring and then you put the car down from the jacks, the weight of the car will only compress a very stiff spring, maybe a centimeter. And that also means if you jack up the car, after 1 centimeter, the spring is loose. The softer the spring is, the more it gets compressed by the weight of the car itself. So maybe this spring is actually, as it's done in some games, connected hard to the wheel and also connected hard to the body. So when you jack the car up, the suspension cannot fall down and the spring cannot become unseated. So maybe that's why there is limited rebound travel, because we simply reach the point where the spring is fully extended, and the stiffer the spring is, the smaller the extension is before we've lost support of the weight of the vehicle. Just a hypothesis, maybe not. I would expect a lot more detail there. Another thing that seems to be missing is that the car doesn't rock left and right when we blip the throttle like that. You would expect a slight rocking. This is a softly sprung car. You would expect that. And is that super important? Well, it's immersive and games have had it for 20 years. And it's not that complicated to have a little torque reaction from... There's a bit of torque, rotational torque in that engine. It would rock the body a little bit. It doesn't. Is that a problem in itself? Not huge. It's immersive and like I said, it's been done for 20 or 25 years in sims. It might also indicate, however, that there is no live axle simulation. Now, I cannot be sure about this. I do not have the source code. Again, it's early access. I'm just having to go by what I can feel and see. I will put a screenshot now from a suspension position, which you can get from SimHub. What you expect, this I think is a car with a live axle, correct me if I'm wrong. Live axle cars are weird. They are asymmetrical when driving. When on the throttle, a lot of the time, they will be more oversteery in left-hand turns than in right-hand turns. Which is, I could explain it's a bit complicated, but anyway, it's because there is a torque reaction from the engine torque through the gearbox going into the differential, and that sort of causes a little bit of rear roll, and it changes the tire loading, and it makes left turns more oversteery than right turns. I don't feel that asymmetry, although it's also masked maybe by the force feedback, but maybe the lack of, you know, no roll here also means that I'm not so sure if there is live axle geometry and correct torque reaction. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Is that huge? Well, there are quite a few old cars that have live axle suspensions, and again, this has been modeled physically correct in rFactor 1 in 2005 as well. And I don't know, I would almost assume, but I don't know, that AC1 has it. So I'm a bit surprised if it's true that there isn't proper like live axle, rear axle modeling with the torque reactions and stuff. And maybe an indication is that we get nothing revving. It would be a bit surprising because it's been a feature in Sims for 20-25 years, and it's not, you know, I cannot do it, but an actual programmer with talent can do that. So that will be another thing that I found. No force feedback off center, that's a little weird. You would expect that to have some like rubbery resistance. And this is actually a problem because sometimes you might have to turn around, and if there is nothing when you stand still and then the real forces come in, it can sort of surprise you and be a sudden pull on the wheel. You would like to have sort of a rubbery friction feeling that blends into the actual forces. So this is not when you're driving perfectly, but when you're making mistakes and you have to make a turnaround and stuff. This can be sort of jolting to the force feedback because there's nothing when you stand still and then suddenly there are forces. Driving normally, like slow, there are strange brake spikes on the force feedback. I don't have time to drive all the other cars, but it's sort of the same in the 037. So when you're just driving at a normal speed, this is all fairly light force feedback. It feels like I get about a half or a third of the maximum that my wheel is set to. All pretty good. Pulls in the right direction, a little bit of road texture in there. It's not terrible, but it doesn't build up fast off center. This is quite fake off center. Oh, and when braking, now it's maximum. It maxed out braking and turning. And then there was a weird spike. And that's what's catching me out. So there's the regular driving. But then braking, and here so as well, with a lot of steering lock, the forces get like twice as heavy. So here it's all very light and not actually, it needs to be, in my opinion, tighter around center. It gives you more gives the wheel more incentive to follow where the car is sliding. Oh, I feel the braking spikes. So this is really heavy, and now this is nothing. I don't understand that corner. There is no force feedback. It pull. As if there is a really slow filter or damper in game to avoid spikes, maybe. I don't know, it still spikes. That when that left-hander follows the right-hander, it doesn't accept force. Maybe there's a tire off the ground or something, but the outside front tire is still touching. We'll do this again later. But braking is quite scary because it can cause spikes that are subjectively 3 times as heavy as just regular steering. So much stronger force feedback there than just taking these turns. Oh yeah, brake. This is maximum torque on the brakes. And it's really light. When there's a left and a right, it's as if as the first turn gives you, if there's a left-right, the left gives you the force, and it takes a while before the force of the next turn arrives. And that was really exaggerated with that hairpin right following into the hairpin sort of left, where we had no forces on the left. But it's really hard, you know, to feel this when driving. You need to know what the game is programmed like and how it works. But it seems like there is a direction change delay maybe on the force feedback. I'm just speculating. And this has to be a bit like more ramping up in force faster. Oh, I'm sort of afraid of the spikes because they might come when braking. Oh, that. I don't know what that was, but suddenly sorry, I didn't mean to kill anybody. When driving normally, light forces, and suddenly, mainly with braking, there are huge spikes, and have to let go of the wheel then. So that pulls in the right direction, but then that left felt didn't feel. So I'm really curious now. Oh. So just driving and sliding a little bit, the forces are low and in sort of the right direction, and I'd like them to ramp up more. It takes a while, but it's a softly sprung car. When you transition from one turn into the other, for that force feedback for that second turn to arrive. But that could just be the suspension as well. Oh, I already feel sort of spikes. And then when you have such a hairpin with a lot of force feedback and then you sort of go straight and then you sort of feel nothing anymore because the regular forces are so weak compared to the hairpin forces. Oh, spikes. Oh, super heavy. And then take this left, there's nothing there. It's so weird. So unwinding the steering out of a hairpin is also difficult because the force feedback is strong, so it unwinds. Oh, snag. Unwinds quicker than you would expect. Oh, maximum force again. So what I would like to do is set the force feedback higher to feel more when I'm driving normally, but I can't because it's very scary and dangerous at high steering lock in hairpins or snagging a brake. It seems asymmetrical. Yeah, oh, super hard. Oh, and a maximum. ugh. It's that braking that's really scary. You never quite know when it's gonna put maximum force on the wheel. But this is good. Nothing whatsoever. Slight braking. Oh, braking slightly. Oh, yeah, and then ugh. It's hard to tell when you brake and turn. Nothing. Oh, maximum. Yeah. I think it is nothing. Maximum. The harder I brake, the more the force feedback ramps up. So how do we make sense of that? I don't know. That spike being so violent that steering left, braking hard, pulls the steering right so fast that it becomes like an oscillating. And it's not, I don't think I'm locking up there. I'm just having 45 degrees of steering on my wheel. It's only 720, so the real car has a bit more. And then I'm braking to slow down at the line, and it wants to pull me to the right super strong. I'm braking, yeah, in a straight line. What it feels like in a straight line braking, there is, oh. I feel spikes. But as long as the left and the right tire sort of brake equally, it doesn't develop into a huge pool. But it are sort of scary spikes because you don't know what will happen. Oh, and now was maximum there. So maybe I locked the inside and there. Oh. This, I do not understand that. That is so strange. Oh, so heavy, just with the lock. So, yeah, and even when I was pulling away, there was some remaining force pulling me right, it seems. Oh, heavy. Left, absolutely nothing. I don't get that at all. What on earth? I cannot, sure, maybe the inside front is off the ground, but I'm still making a turn to the left, and it has no resistance there. Lots of resistance, too much actually. Why is it pulling to the left? I can confirm the G-forces and the door physics seem to be in line. 0.47 now, still no... Oh, alright. Still no force feedback at standstill. Initially this seemed better, but default setup has weak-ish brakes, and now I've updated the. Oh, that's a crash, but also weird. Okay, it locks up easily now. Oh, did I put that dent in the tree? Why does it? How can it pull to the left if both front tires, assuming, are locked? Also, a lot of force feedback in the hairpins. Large lock angles. And quite weak off center. Oh, yeah. When you're braking hard, also not a lot on the left turn, but some on the left turn. But when you're braking hard, it seems that it either wants to pull left or pull right at sort of maximum force. Why? I'm going straight. I was sort of symmetrical. You see, but I was going ever so slightly left. And then it pulls super hard right. Ever so slightly right. And it pulls super hard. Oh, yeah, that's a feature. Hello. Thank you. Straight. Pulls left. Oh, and you see how violent it snaps back too. Right. Pulls left really hard. So it seems to be that the side that locks. So right side, and it pulls left really hard. And if the left side locks, it pulls right really hard. And when both tires lock, you feel the force feedback fighting for, oh, do I pull hard left or hard right? And it sort of feels a bit scary. There, oh. We've killed, in true Group B style, we've killed somebody before we even started. You would also expect the steering to go light when everything is locked. It doesn't though. I'm assuming both tires are locked. Let's lock them both and see what... No. I cannot see the front tires, but I've got the strongest brake components and I'm braking fully. So you would assume the tires are locked. And if both tires are locked, there shouldn't be much pulling on the steering wheel. And there is. If both tires are locked, I cannot see them. Oh, it pulls so hard to the left there. Very hard to the left. Sometimes it's straight when you lock both wheels, but you're only a fraction of time away from the force feedback pulling. So after trying it in the sim, you saw some weird things. We have to break out the serious professional analysis tool called Paint. So what is happening subjectively? If we plot the steering angle, so steer more and more and more to the right, versus the force feedback that I feel. So we're not braking, none of that weirdness, we'll talk about that later. It doesn't ramp up fast, it feels like it's sort of like that. And then it's sort of stable, and then hairpin turns, the more steering you apply, it gets very heavy after a certain amount of steering lock. Will this be accurate? No, it's sort of what it feels like. What would a real car feel like? Well, I don't know, sadly, I do not own these cars, but a lot of the time, at least what happens, it ramps up very fast. So with almost all cars, the force ramp up is much faster to a peak. This is fairly normal for basically all cars. And then it depends. For example, the Formula 2 car, because the steering is so heavy, the suspension doesn't have a lot of trail. What will happen is literally this. So the steering goes extremely light if you have a lot of understeer. And on other cars with more caster and more trail, maybe you get something like that. So this is the window of force that real cars might do. Now if you have a game, a simulator, having this super big drop-off is actually, even though it's realistic, difficult to drive, because if you get to large slip angles, you feel almost nothing in the force feedback. And you're not in the car, you don't have the G-forces. I'd say for a game, you want that force to be sort of nicely centering, pointing the wheels into the direction of the slide with a good amount of force. So let's ignore that and let's just assume that for a good game, maybe you want something like that. What is the difference in feel between these two curves? Well, the blue one, perhaps more realistic, ramps up a lot faster with steering. Now, this could be steering, it could also be you holding the wheel straight and the whole car starting to slide. There is also slip and it will also ramp up. A steeper curve here has a far more greater tendency to correct the slides. So as soon as the car starts to slide a little bit, the back moves, the front wheels want to keep pointing in the direction the car is moving, sort of applying self-correcting and opposite lock, so to speak. And the steeper this line is, and the higher the force is, the more snappy it will help you point the steering wheel where it wants to go to sort of neutralize the slide. And here we have two issues, what I feel in AC Rally. The slope is not that steep, so it's a bit sluggish around the center, and a small slide will not really be corrected automatically. And it doesn't reach a high force, so it won't snappily, quickly apply opposite lock, for example, for you. And even if it doesn't apply opposite lock, it will tell you that it wants to do it, even if you hold the wheel straight. So the higher this is and the more steep it climbs, the more feeling you have of controlling the car and pointing the steering wheel into the proper direction to stop your slide from getting out of control. Second difference is, it depends, like I said, but force will probably stay somewhat high even at large steering lock, but it will not ramp up. If anything, it should drop a bit. So quite a difference in feeling. And now what happens subjectively in the game when we brake a little bit in the turn? Let's say we are steering, we are here, and we brake a little bit. Then we suddenly go that way. For some reason the force gets super high. And it depends on what side you lock, whether is the force that way or is the force the other way, but the force suddenly ramps up. What should happen when braking? Well, that depends again a lot on the suspension geometry. But I would imagine if you lock an inside tire, the inside tire isn't super busy. It doesn't do a lot of cornering force. It doesn't do a huge amount of braking force. Maybe if we lock the inside tire here, we get that. We lose some force feedback. And if we lock both tires, it will be a bit more like that. So we expect the force to go light and not to oscillate at all, but it goes a little light if we lock the inside wheel and the outside wheel still turning. If we lock both wheels, the force feedback gets really light and we go straight on. So you will, it's a beautiful drawing, that's one thing, but you can see the things that happen, I feel, in real life are the opposite of what seems to happen in the game. Plus, it's so unpredictable, it wants to oscillate. You don't know which side is going to pull maximum force. And when the force is getting lighter, that's a lot more, well, you're not afraid of it, let's say that. So you can read that information. Oh, slightly lighter steering means probably locking an inside tire. Very light steering, oh, I'm probably locking the front axle. And even when both tires are locked in AC Rally, it sort of feels like around center, it wants to sort of go maximum left or maximum right. It's really a bit scary and unstable. So this is quite a huge difference in what I feel, which I don't know if it's exactly like this. Maybe I'm interpreting things wrong, versus what I think should happen. So that's not very positive for the force feedback, I'm afraid. And that's what I want to sort of end with. It's just simply not good. That's pretty clear. And yet, I'm telling, and a lot of people are very enthusiastic about the game. There are a few reasons why this could be. For example, the first thing, we've had so many GT3 at Spa games that doesn't excite us. At least it doesn't excite me anymore. So when there is finally a new rally game after 21 years, everybody wants it to do well and everybody's excited. So maybe that's why people sort of gloss over some of the issues, or, you know, some people do notice it, but we want this to be a good game and to exist. But maybe we are more sort of lenient on it versus if it was another GT3 at Spa game. Yeah, that my positivity comes from that. But even with flaws, you saw I was having a lot of fun driving on the gravel with my Lancia. So even with big flaws, yeah, I say this is probably something is wrong. It's still a lot of fun, and the game is good otherwise, that even without force feedback you can rely on just your logical experience of how cars drive, and going by the graphics and the sound you can still control them quite well. But of course, if the force feedback behaved more as expected, it would be even more natural and easy and less scary to use more force feedback and be even more immersed. So they have quite a lot of stuff to do there, I think. Well, one question you can ask, what causes this? I don't know. It's quite strange. something tells me maybe they've inverted how the longitudinal forces, I don't know, there is some obvious strange thing going on. There is a link in the description to a very nerdy, very in-depth video I made some years ago describing all the things on the suspension and the tires that contribute to the force feedback. You should really watch that, because I will now mention scary words. Braking can only add force feedback when you have scrub radius. And that video that I just mentioned describes it clearly. And if it dominates, as it does now, it dominates the force feedback, maybe there's a lot of scrub radius. Steering forces, they come more from the trail of the suspension and also the pneumatic trail of the tire. And it seems that maybe something is inverted with the longitudinal forces, with the scrub radius, but also the balance between them seems off, because normally the cornering forces do a huge amount of the force feedback and the braking only affects it a little bit, because a lot of the time maybe the scrub radius isn't that huge and there is a lot of self-aligning torque from the tires and the trail of the tire. So maybe that suspension geometry has way too much scrub radius. Maybe it inverts the longitudinal force, I don't know, and doesn't have enough caster trail or pneumatic trail. So the cornering is weak and the braking sort of dominates, but it's really hard to tell. Do watch that video though, you might learn something. I think something is just inverted or so, I don't know, it might even be simple, I don't know. It's just really weird and really the opposite of what you would expect. That's about it then. For now, I need to do some real work and other stuff. I might come back to AC Rally maybe during the Christmas holiday, something like that. Yeah, quite critical. I think some things are really not right, but I do want to repeat myself. Despite flaws, and every sim has its flaws, major flaws, minor flaws, it's still fun to play and thoroughly enjoyable, and despite all the issues, still natural enough to throw your car around the forest. That is still good fun. So early access as well, maybe they are aware of it, maybe things are fixed already in the current build, we don't know, we'll have to see. I hope it gets a lot better, because if it's already pretty good, imagine if they improve it more and the force feedback becomes amazing and other things are amazing and we have better suspension, and well, yeah, maybe they shouldn't do it, because I might get fired from my own company if it gets too good. So maybe that's the downside. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Maybe it was interesting. It did take half an hour or so, but rambling about force feedback. Oh no, I'm turning into gamer muscle. Oh crap. Bye bye.